welcome to the Silent Hill Ascension pre-show. As usual, I am Eduardo, joined here with Layla, and Layla's going to run you through, lovely audience, because you're the third member of our crew here, through the run of show.
Absolutely. Well, technically they're like the 6th or 7th member. There's a lot going on in the background here. But yes, everybody, welcome. If you've never been here before, it is currently 5:40 p.m. Pacific, and that means you're here with me and my favorite Eduardo for the pre-show. At 6 p.m. Pacific, so in about 20 minutes, Ascension will begin. That is the regular show, and then you'll come right back into our Lovic Embrace for the post-show, where we will debrief and have a good time. Eduardo, for folks who have never been here before, what is Silent Hill Ascension?
Of course, and for those who have been here before, I know you love to hear it. So, Silent Hill Ascension is a socially interactive streaming series where all of you collectively shape and experience its ever-evolving story. You're going to collaborate and compete with others to try to make the choices you want to see occur. Now, when the decision ends, what's going to happen is the choice locks in as canon. That's the version of the show that everyone sees. That canon story is shaped by you, the participating audience, every day. And we're actually going to essentially see how some of this is starting to play out, because as you do these decisions, they start going on our scenes and they're creeping up as essentially decisions that you've done in weeks past start to go in our lovely scenes. So what we're going to do here, production's going to put up our setup scene to get you up to speed, where Eric is going to find Rachel in a city park. I have a description. I'm just going to let you enjoy it because it's quite a scene. So we'll see you back in about 2 minutes.
Esta niña linda se quiere dormir.
Rach?
Y el pícaro sueño no quiere venir. I had her in my arms.
It's okay, Rach.
But it wasn't her. I had to escape. I could hear her calling for me, crying. Oh God, Eric, what if I let her die?
Rachel, look at me. Tell me what happened. You saw Faith?
She said the Purifier sent her to test me, to see if I was worthy of being her mother. I guess I wasn't.
How do you know it was her?
I don't know. It looked like her. It smelled like her.
You never did want to be a mother.
What?
I had to convince you to have faith.
That's not true.
Maybe the Purifier is right. Maybe you're not worthy.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoy that. So one of the things before we dive into the story is I'm going to ask our production team to put in the background our iconic scene of the week. That video is where Carl has a final confrontation with a manifestation of all his guilt and trauma, and the truth about Eva is revealed. That scene is quite long, so you're going to get to enjoy that throughout our explanation of the story, because Layla, actually last week was actually kind of intense.
It's a way to put it, Eduardo. For me personally, I can finally exhale, because this is the thing I was trying not to spoil for a bunch of weeks. But yeah, we finally got to see what the deal is, because everyone's been kind of referring to something bad that happened in Stilladalin, and we can, Nils is coming around and he's in pain from something, and clearly this family has really been fractured by something other than Ingrid, and we finally got to figure out what that was, and it was this shooting that one of the Johansson sisters perpetrated. And as I said last week, if you weren't here, the mystery that's still outstanding is, where is she?
No, it's the thing here, right? It's kind of this for me. You mentioned Ingrid. Essentially, one of the things is she's not off the hook, because Eva basically said Mama never loved me as well, hated me, actually, pretty straightforwardly. Now, what happens as a result of that tragedy, horrific, of course. But we see here kind of like the conclusion of how, because Carl, as the sisters point out in kind of another scene, never really got over it. And again, as Britt says, how do you get over something like this? So this isn't. I mean, to be fair, the fact that Carl kind of came out of this is already impressive.
Right. I mean, like, listen, this is maybe just because I'm a Scorpio, but I get over nothing. So, in terms of like family tragedy, it is genuinely impressive that Carl was able to come to terms with his culpability in what his daughter did. Because, we're talking about, it's a really common, how do I put this? It's a common phenomenon that violence is cyclical, especially in families. So it's, being able to see his negligence and his absenteeism as being partially at fault for what his daughter did is kind of the first step in maybe not healing necessarily, but like moving forward. Because listen, he still has a life to live, right? And you got to live with what you did, or in Ava's case, didn't do.
Right, and that's actually how Carl's arc concludes. By the way, for a lovely audience at home, I'm sorry I wasn't there last Friday. I was busy with Carl, so we kind of chatted with the family, try to figure out like what things were going on. So like while we were on the boat, I mean, you see there, Carl is redeemed. That's the key right there. So he talked with Lejo, so we caught up as well, right? He let me know about his conversation with Lejo, essentially that, essentially he has his life to live, and if his family believes he's missing her debt, maybe it's better that he's out from the perspective of letting them live their life and continue. The biggest question I think left with Carl is, Orson, right? He believes that's kind of it. Horrible tragedy, Orson's gone, but otherwise wanted to move on, and that's the thing, right? It's really rough here for Carl, but he's still redeemed, well alive, takes the boat, takes Lejo's kind of advice and goes. So one of the things though is we're going to talk about the Johanssons because the decision closing today actually has to do with them and our new featured character. So production's already put that on the screen. So Lila, if you could fill our audience in.
I mean, the Thunderdome, basically, right? Where now our audience gets to influence Brit's decisions. So for today, it's what will Brit do about Carl's liquor cabinet? Once again, this is a fate decision. So A, pour out the bottle, that is the redemption choice. B, close the cabinet, that is the suffering choice. And C, drink from the bottle, that is the damnation choice. If you haven't been around or you're just catching up, Brit is in recovery for her drinking and implied, addiction. She has been pretty good about setting her boundaries with her family, to the point where she wasn't even going to come for her mother's funeral, and so now the decision is in your hands about what's going to happen. And we got Drew in the chat saying, I feel very strongly about Brit maintaining her sobriety, and that's in the hands of all of you.
Well, and that's actually one of the things. I checked the decision. Redemption's actually winning by quite a bit. And I know that, like, for a lot of our audience, I mean, the truth be told, right, Redemption wins a lot of these options. There's a variety of reasons for that, but, like, regardless of the explanation, that's just fact. Now, the thing is, there's redemption and there's redemption. So to speak, right? When we've had those, we'll get that in the post show. So we're going to go through some of the decisions you made last week, audience. But the thing is, a lot of those decisions were close. It was between redemption and another choice, often very close, not that far off. With this, it doesn't feel like the same, because it does hit a little closer to home, right? I mean, okay, the bottle comes in, there's a little bit of fog, it's a little bit eerie, something's up. But the thing is, this feels a little distinct to some of the other options we've had.
Sorry, I'm thinking about Silent Hill : something's up. It does. It's much more personal. I feel like a lot of the choices we've had have been very much about what will this character do that will affect some other person, right? What will he do that will immediately affect one of the kids, right? Faith. How will you act around Faith, or how will you act around Orson, or what will you do in response to this other character? This is more long term, right? This is more close to home. This is what will Brit do in her own journey, which might affect her family members long term, but in the immediate is very personal.
Yeah, right. So it's not quite the same. So again, and I understand that strong feeling. So now we talked about the Johanssons a lot. Let's look back at Pennsylvania, because we kind of started with Eric and Rachel here. So what we're going to do, that's going to be up on your screen, the story so far in Pennsylvania. Layla will read through it, and then we're going to come back on that scene between Eric and Rachel.
Right. So Eduardo, if you'll recall, we got a Faith and we got a Rachel. And that's how we're denoting them. And so Faith behaves particularly creepily. Rachel and Eric's marital issues are coming to a head, and Xavier still wants Eric to partake in the Morgie with Krista, but Eric is unsure.
And of course, that's Noah's little signature on the Morgie with Krista, but we're glad that that's part of the lore right now.
Listen, we love to have Noah with us, even when she's not directly on our screens. She is the one that helps us put together. Eduardo work on the content. I just show up.
You worked on the content before, right? You're like, you pre-made the content a couple of years back. We're like coming in hot.
I'm pre-production. But it's, this is these Morgie choices. First of all, audience loves the Morgie choices, and I get it, right? As we say in the entertainment industry, sex sells, right? But also, like, man, this is really putting a strain on an already strained marriage.
No, and actually, coming back to that scene, right? By the way, that's Rachel without the question mark. That's actually Rachel.
That's Rachel not winking. That is Rachel.
Yeah, that's Rachel. Yeah, Rachel straight up. So that scene, when Rachel starts singing in Spanish, is like, okay, something's up. And then the hands are empty. There's no baby where the baby should be, because A, the baby grew up, and B, probably shouldn't be one at that point. So we're kind of left with this. And to me, Rachel's not in the best position, having, kind of ditched quotation mark Faith behind to the loving care of the Snarlers. But still, Eric delivers one of the harshest lines, because he's kind of been like, at the start of the show, he's like kind of like under thumb of like the Foundation and Rachel. And then we saw him become his own character. And there he's kind of like just super aggressive against Rachel there.
Eric went from having a spine made of jello to a spine made of Teflon. And like, listen, King, I get it. You're like in a not so great marriage to a very powerful lady who is just like very obtrusive, but it was 0 to 60 in 3.5, right? It was, which I get. I'm also like that. I'm all cute and smiles and nice until some 10 years of resentment bubbles up and I snap. But it was quite jarring. I mean, like, go off. You know what I mean? Like, she did not deserve it.
No, that was a little too much, right? Like, she's clearly in a rough past, right? Her life is a little shambolic right now. Needs a little bit of help, needs a little bit of at least empathy. And Eric's kind of got enough. He to be fair, his mind is on the satyrdom that may or may not be coming, and other things that the lovely audience can decide on how that goes. We will cover that in the post show, because that decision's for tomorrow. So we want to make sure we do cover that. Now, again, that's Pennsylvania. So kind of Norway though was kind of the everything last week. Pennsylvania is now picking up. It's the center of focus, but we kind of want to look at Norway one last time. So the story so far for Norway is going to be on screen. Layla, if you can walk us through it, and then we're going to break it down again, because we've started to, but there's always a little bit more here and what to look forward to.
Absolutely. So over in Norway, Carl met his final fate, and the truth about Ava was revealed. Britt struggles with her addiction, and Orson is still at large. And we actually got a Vicky MC73 in the chat said, "Cool twist to the story creators. I so didn't see Ava as dead in the story until it was given to us on a plate. That was a very cool twist. Thank you." And I just want to point out, I love how many of our audience members were blindsided by that twist, but I also love that I definitely, in looking at the chat, saw some people guess it dead on. So good mix, everybody. I love that you enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, every broken clock at least gets it right twice a day. So that's the important part here to remember. If you got like 1,000 monkeys on 1,000 typewriters, you will write audience, you've been awesome. It's like, it's part of the guessing game as well. We like that you enjoyed the mystery, as Layla mentioned. We're delighted that you kind of some of you found it, some of you didn't, but that's part of the fun, is to be with others and to try to discover what's going on. So again, right, but that's sunset. So essentially that's Carl's final fate. We got to see that. Britt struggling with her addiction was pretty obvious from the offset with that scene. And I mean, there's that scene as well. She's trying to keep it together, but she has kind of the deck stacked against her, so to speak.
Yeah, she certainly does, both on a personal front and also on the outside circumstances that are facing her. And listen, we've seen calm and collected Astrid, and we're going to see how Britt puts up to the struggle. It's going to be interesting to see these two very different sisters tackle these problems. And also, I would just look at me, chat. Please remember, in the inevitable, when we all pick our sides between the three hosts, who gives you heartfelt messages about how much we appreciate you and how I see all you regulars and I'm concerned with your name pronunciations. And this clown, I think it's to the other side, whichever side Eduardo's on from me, who called you broken clocks and monkeys on typewriters. All right, remember that.
I mean, no, that's more sayings that had nothing to do with anything on the inside.
Don't remember. I'll remember.
That's okay. The kid's missing, by the way. And let's be honest. This is, I mean, I don't know how the story advances. I actually don't. I try not to spoil myself. But, Orson is still at large. The big question is, we've seen Faith quotation marks. I'm looking forward to Orson quotation marks whenever that appears. I legitimately don't know. Like, by the way, this is true, audience. I don't know. I try not to spoil myself. I don't look ahead, but I really would hope speculatively that Orson quotation marks is a thing in the future.
I like that you say Orson is at large as if he's out there committing Grand Theft Auto or like grand larceny, not as if he's a missing child.
He did bite, right? So
he did bite.
Yeah, but speaking of biting, we got these endurance scenes where we got this monsters kind of munching on our audience members night after night. So, Layla, if you could explain our endurance scenes and pretty much roll with it. I know you can roll with it.
God, you really are the master of transitions. All right, when the endurance scene starts, you will have to time your inputs to the actions you see on screen to help our character. Collective success means that the character's hope will rise, otherwise it will fall. If a character fails enough endurance scenes, they may not survive future encounters, leading to their permanent death in the story. Someone in the chat brought up Toby earlier, just like Toby. These endurance scenes are one of the best places to earn large amounts of influence points. Remember, success or failure is part of the collective story and not an individual judgment on your skill. Folks also do like to, I say this every once in a while, but folks do like to sometimes intentionally fail when it's a character they don't like in the endure stream. But Eduardo, the show is coming up on us hot. Would you care to recap for us?
Sure, of course. So tonight you're going to see the result of that decision. What will Britt do about Carl's liquor cabinet? Now, Damnation does have a rally, although we are very likely to see redemption. That decision's closing in 6 minutes. If you really do care about trying to change things, it is doable. The rally is huge at 440%, and the amount of points to differ. If you really do want to change things here, it's available to you. Now, that said, we are really much in that setup, right? Because we've seen Carl's story sunset. That was a really, really important part of last week for all of you. But as Carl's story sunsets, Pennsylvania is really going to be the focus of our action as we go on. You've seen it, especially with that ongoing decision. Tomorrow we're gonna check that out in the post show, and tomorrow you're gonna get that little payoff. Kind of more G part 2. In the meantime, though, it seems like our characters are coming to a head, and I, for one, want to kind of see how things continue. So all that's left to do is to remind you that Layla and myself will be back after the show for the post show. The show is going to start in about a minute. We really want you to enjoy it. We hope you have a delightful time with the show coming up, with the Endure scene, and we'll be there right after, break it down, and tell you and help you see what to look forward to. So this was Eduardo. I was with Layla. It was a pleasure, but we'll see you in just a bit.